All right, thank you, Kirk. This May, voters in Belpre will decide whether to approve a bond issue and levy that would support the construction of a new middle and high school over the next several years. This is the 11th time a school building issue has been put before voters since 1997, with voters rejecting the previous 10. Belpre City Schools Superintendent Jeff Greenlee says the district's existing facilities are aging, with the newest building being built in 1969. Greenlee says maintaining these buildings is growing more and more costly. If the bond and levy issue doesn't pass, Greenlee says the school board will eventually have to start making cuts elsewhere in the budget to take care of the buildings.
We would see a reduction in the number of staff, so we would see class sizes go up. You might see some extracurricular activity fees going in for athletic programming. You would see transportation services reduced. You know, the kinds of things that a school district would need to do in order to free up the funds to make those large of repairs.
The levy would authorize the school to issue bonds worth almost $46 million to construct the new facilities. A levy over the bond repayment period would be set at 9.1 mils per $1 of taxable property value, which amounts to about $28 a month per $100,000 of appraised property value. We'll have more on Belpre's bond issue later tonight.